Kelly is our last speaker. Come up here. Awesome timing on the back of what Ikarus had to say, because there's a real flip here, and I think it's perfectly appropriate. So, all yours.
Okay. Thanks, guys. Thank you for inviting me up to this. Bobby, it's awesome to be here. I feel very much like the wild card in this particular event, and that is fine. It doesn't make me feel uncomfortable. I kind of find it a little bit amusing and a little bit cool to be in this position, so it's good. Here's my really cool piece of paper. I was part of that festival that Ross just talked about, and he messaged, we did a collaboration piece for it, and he messaged Natasha and I saying, oh yeah, we've got this wall, it's 35 meters wide, and we're like, sweet, we'll just do that in 2 days, no problem. Can we stay an extra day if possible? And we didn't do much sleeping, and we nearly electrocuted ourselves. I shouldn't tell him that. It had nothing to do with Ross, everything to do with us. It was fine. Yeah, so to start, this is a piece I did in Bali a few months ago, which is, in a way, tied in with this festival world where everybody knows each other, and I was able to be hooked up with people in Bali who gave me paint and a place to sleep and a kitten to play with, and I was able to paint this wall in a few days there by way of knowing people that know people that are there who are all tied in with festivals. I came into this from a different angle from everyone else, is why I'm the wild card. I started in illustration, and I'm still an illustrator. I've been doing it for about 9 or 10 years. I started doing graphic design. I'm self-taught. I didn't go through any art schools. I was just in my early 20s and was like, I'm going to be an illustrator, because then I get to draw pictures and move around a lot, and lo and behold, it panned out. So yeah, I went through this sort of process. I was doing shitty design jobs for shitty money and moved into illustration. That became more fun. Then eventually I figured out that lettering was a thing that I A, enjoyed, and B, could fully pursue. And that's kind of what's led me on the journey that I am on now. So this is one of the early pieces. This was part of an exhibition that Michael Tuffery and Phlox organised at Pātaka in Wellington, which is a gallery museum space. This one's a skate deck for a company called Paper Rain Project, who do a lot of really good work, working with New Zealand artists, selling their work for prices that we get to choose, and they also do a lot of work with charity causes, giving money back into certain communities. A little bit on that. Yeah, so once I discovered, this is the first lettering I ever did. It's done on Photoshop, but I did spend about 3 days drawing it in pencil, and then about 6 days doing it in Photoshop, because I didn't actually know how to use Photoshop at the time. So I painstakingly coloured it in. But I still like it, which I think is cool. Yeah, a little tour of the pictures. So I got into this lettering thing, and I was doing design, and I had these clients. I was like, okay guys, now we're not going to put pictures on things anymore. I'm just going to hand letter everything, and managed to convince people that that was okay. And so these were a couple of gig posters for Band the Nudge, and a gig they did with Little Bushmen. This one's for you, Nick. It's a giant happy dolphin. Yeah, so I've always drawn animals in my work, and in recent times I've become way more drawn to doing ocean-related stuff. Part of that is through involvement with the Seawalls Festival, which I was magically invited to go and paint at this year. Like I said, I am new to doing walls. I sort of started dabbling in some 4 or 5 years ago with my friend Sean, who most of you know, Ghosty Duffel. we share a studio together, and I'd be like, Sean, take me to paint the walls. And we're like, yeah, okay, cool. And we'd go out and be like, why are you using brushes? It's like, because cans are really hard. But I got there eventually. I'm still getting there. I'm still very much getting there. Yeah, so this, off the walls again, this lettering thing, I was able to take it through to clients. This is a thing for Garage Project. I got to start moving away from doing computer work because that doesn't actually make my heart very happy, and doing physical stuff like this, and I'm doing one in Source soon for another client, but this was great fun. We got to pour it out with salt. I actually made it 3 times because 2 of the videographers messed it up after we'd made it. It takes about 3 hours to sort of like shift all the granules into place. This is a 3D square eyes. Just checking on what I want to touch on. I've kind of changed my mind what I wanted to say since listening to everyone speak, which was inevitable. This is another piece. This was just a personal piece that I did for, I think it was for a charity event, raising money for animals, again with the animals. Yeah, so from the lettering, I got into sign painting. And like I said, that was me getting out of doing digital work and getting into doing physical work. And from the sign painting is kind of where the obsession with walls begun. Like, I dabbled in them, I'd done some electricity boxes and those things, but yeah, I was like, okay, now I'm going to shift my focus. Now I'm going to actually try and do some larger stuff, and started to see just how much I was going to enjoy it. The aforementioned Sean. I'm going to drop that and just talk to the pictures. Yeah, so this was one of the first pieces that I got to do. This is in light of those sort of free walls, we don't have a hell of a lot of them in Wellington. There's a couple that I know of, and there's probably more that I don't know about. This is one that I don't really know how the logistics of it, but somehow Sean has access to this, so we're allowed to go and paint it. It's in Aro Valley, and so he did the background, and I did all the type on top, except for this curve, because I couldn't get my arm to do that curve. Every time I did it, it'd just go, you're like, how can you do it? Yeah. So, beginning of this year, Cinza invited me to paint at Seawalls, and I was super stoked because I felt really new to this scene and was very grateful that I'm able to do it. Like, I haven't put in the graffiti years that all of you guys have, but I have put in the illustration years and the fine art years, and so in that way I see it as I sort of, new picture, came in through the side door into this world, but I don't want to portray that side door as being inferior in any way. Like, it is an alternate route, and I'm the 20% that you mentioned at the start, Bobby, in this case 10%. So yeah, it's just a different angle to come in from. It's like one of those houses, so you've got the front door, and you guys were all at the front door. I took the side door, but it's one of those houses where like your friends sort of use the side door and the front door anyway. There's both entrances are just, they're different, but they end up in the same place, more or less. So it's when I started to have to think about, like, the reason I'm able to be doing this stuff, yes, is because of the years I've put in, but it is also because of the years that graffiti artists have put in to now make street art socially palatable. And I think that's where this crunchy sort of dynamic is, which is probably going to be something we'll talk about for the whole weekend, and I'm keen to do that. I listened to your interview the other day on Radio New Zealand, and it was just that can of worms that opened up. I was like, oh God, there's so much to think about with this. So yeah, I have people come up to me when I'm doing this. You know, I'm a female, I'm probably more approachable for that reason. I have these happy colors on all the time. People come up and they're like, oh, so much better than that graffiti stuff. I'm like, whoa. No, no, it's not. You're talking about tagging for starters, and I understand if you don't like that on your fence, but like, so I mean, I guess a positive spin on being in this position in the festivals is that I am then able to communicate with people when they come up with those sorts of opinions. Even though it's not my background, I feel affiliated to it by a degree of separation because a lot of my friends come from that background, and the reason that this is happening is because of that background. So I am then able to, say to them like, hey, no, like, people do amazing stuff, and this comes from this, and that still exists. This is just, I don't know, like, the festivals, bouncing off what you're saying, like, that they're so inaccessible, but when you're painting in a festival, you've actually worked your way up to be of a certain standard, and, like, that's like, I don't know, you might kick my ass, Ross, but it's like saying to be in a gallery is inaccessible. It is.
Totally is.
Yeah, but people did put in the yards to get there. I just think it's going to be a tragedy if it removes graffiti. Like if it can be its own thing, where people have come from different places to be at that level, cool. But as long as it doesn't detract from all the places that continue to exist, that sort of fit into that pool. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Anyone?
If they are able to continue to exist.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah. In an environment like
that's where
Auckland,
it's tricky.
In all places like Auckland, that's actually quite difficult.
Yeah, I know.
So,
yeah.
And that, means that the work that Bobby does in the advocacy space with youth is quite so important.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree with that. It's just a little thought bubble. Yeah, so this, I won't keep it long. This is the piece that we did in Graffiato this year, which Ross organised, Natasha and I. That's the cable that we snapped in half because we hadn't had much sleep. But it was a super awesome time doing collaboration. I enjoyed that, and I'm about to do some more next week in another festival. Forgive me. Hey?
Yeah, can I go on record? I don't hate festivals.
I know. I know.
Traditional graffiti to get forgotten in that
Hard art.
Like,
yeah.
That was my point.
I know. I'm just bouncing off it because it's fun. Yeah, and that was the finished piece. See, so happy.
Can I just say, and that also, that was the biggest wall we had this year. It was about 35 metres by 8 metres.
It was 28.
Was it? Okay, my pace is off.
Ross,
it was big too.
Liam's was big too.
But it's really interesting. So you talk about people earning or working their way to get the opportunity. Now, this was Natasha's first wall ever, really.
Yeah, it was.
But I know Natasha. I know that she can kill it. She's worked her ass off to get the competency to be able to do something like that. So I just knew that she'd be able to do it. So yes, why not have your first wall be 30 odd metres?
I know.
Yeah.
And that's why I was happy to collab with her, because I too knew Natasha, and I've seen her work, and she's harder worker than I am. So I was like, sweet.
Okay. I'd like to maybe suggest that, like, as an alternative to what you were saying, Nick, that maybe it's not going to erode the path's history of graffiti, but instead broaden it and make it like a little bit more accessible to different groups.
Possibly. The problem is that the public just go, I like the pictures.
Yeah,
graffiti.
totally.
And so as a festival organiser, I'm under pressure from my funder, which is aligned with council, to deliver stuff that the public go, we love this event, we want to keep doing this event. Yeah, so it puts it in a pretty difficult position.
But then it would also teach typographers like Kelly, like you have a refined, like a nuanced appreciation for graffiti that potentially you wouldn't have had if you had met Duffels or something like that.
Yeah.
And you're now an advocate for it. You're defending a free public space.
Yeah.
From the avenue that led you here.
Yeah.
And I think that it's definitely got potential. And like, I don't do letters, but when I mentor kids at Baby, the first thing I show them is how to write their names. Right?
Yeah.
evolves and changes.
Yeah, I like
They're
it.
kind of,
It strengthens it in some form,
yeah.
and in other ways, it kind of, it makes graffiti look bad, but do we as graffiti writers want that in that environment? Is it where it belongs, or is it
Do you want it to look good?
be a legal thing? It's an interesting discussion. I don't really know where my personal views actually end up, but there is like a lot of grey areas in there.
Yeah, it's a total can of worms. And it's cool that these conversations are happening. And thank you guys for making these conversations happen. I think it's super valuable.
It is super valuable.
I don't just think it, I know it. It is super valuable. Thank you for affirming. Yeah, I'll wrap it up at that. Let's
Thank you.
let this library close.